Make Your Next Enlightenment Move by David Russo. There's a moment quiet, often uncomfortable, when you realize something in your life wants to change. Not someday, not when things calm down. Now. That moment is not enlightenment itself. It's an invitation to move. We've been taught to think of enlightenment as a destination, a final arrival marked by clarity, peace, or a permanent sense of having it all figured out. But real growth doesn't work like that. Enlightenment is not a single breakthrough. It's a series of conscious moves, small and large, made with awareness, courage, and intention. This audiobook is not about escaping your life. It's about engaging it differently. Your next move doesn't require a total reinvention. It doesn't require perfect confidence, flawless discipline, or someone else's permission. It requires honesty. It requires presence. And most of all, it requires a willingness to act from awareness instead of habit. Right now, you are standing somewhere, in a career, a relationship, a mindset, a routine, a version of yourself, and whether you admit it or not, you already know where you're stuck. Maybe it's a decision you keep postponing, a conversation you avoid, a habit you've outgrown, a dream you keep calling unrealistic because it scares you. So let me ask you gently, but directly, where are you paused instead of progressing? What move have you been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable, uncertain, or disruptive? This audiobook is built around a simple but powerful idea. Growth happens through movement. Not reckless action, but conscious action. Enlightenment is not passive insight. It's awareness expressed through choice. Each chapter will help you recognize where you are, question what's been shaping you, and practice choosing differently in ways that are practical, grounded, and real. You'll learn how to see your patterns clearly, spot the illusions that keep you waiting, and understand resistance not as failure, but as information. You'll explore how every moment, yes, even the ordinary ones, contains a choice, and how small, intentional moves can quietly transform the direction of your life. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself on purpose. Along the way, you'll be invited to reflect, write, pause, and experiment. Not to judge where you are, but to understand it. Not to force change, but to embody it. Because insight without integration fades, and motivation without action expires. There will be setbacks. That's not a flaw in the process, it is the process. Growth is iterative. You learn, you adjust, you move again. Enlightenment is not linear. It's lived. By the end of this audiobook, the goal is not that you feel inspired only while listening. The goal is that you feel capable when it ends. Capable of making one clear, intentional move today that aligns with who you are becoming. You don't need to see the whole path. You only need to see your next step. So take a breath, let go of the pressure to get it right, and stay open. Because the most powerful shift you can make right now is this. Stop waiting for enlightenment to arrive and start moving toward it. Your next move is closer than you think. Chapter 1. Awakening to your next move. Most people don't stay stuck because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity. They stay stuck because they're waiting for clarity to arrive before they act, waiting for confidence to appear before they decide, waiting for the right moment before they move. But here's the truth most self-improvement books avoid. Clarity follows action, not the other way around. And enlightenment is not a passive realization, it's an active choice. Awakening begins the moment you stop asking, what will happen if I move? And start asking, what will happen if I don't? Enlightenment as action means this. Every time you act with awareness instead of autopilot, you wake up a little more. Growth doesn't arrive as a lightning strike. It unfolds through deliberate moves, conversations you finally have, habits you consciously shift, boundaries you decide to honor. Your life is not shaped by one defining moment. It's shaped by thousands of small decisions made when no one is watching. Right now, you're already making moves, just not all of them are intentional. Some are driven by fear, some by comfort, some by old beliefs you've never questioned. Awakening is about noticing those invisible forces and choosing differently. Take a moment and ask yourself, Where am I operating on autopilot? What part of my life feels repetitive, heavy, or stalled? What decision do I keep circling but never landing on? Avoidance is often a sign not of weakness, but of awareness knocking on the door. The move you've been avoiding isn't random. It's usually the one that threatens your familiar identity. Because growth doesn't just ask you to do something new, it asks you to let go of who you've been. Maybe you've outgrown a role, a relationship, or a version of success that once made sense. Maybe your discomfort isn't a problem to solve, but a signal to listen to. Awakening means recognizing that discomfort is not the enemy. Stagnation is. This chapter isn't asking you to leap blindly. It's asking you to notice. To slow down enough to see where your energy is pulling you forward and where fear is quietly holding you back. So here's your first conscious move. Name the place where you feel stuck. Not dramatically, honestly. Then name the move you've been postponing. Not perfectly, clearly. Karma. You don't have to act on it yet. Awareness comes first, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's how awakening begins, not with answers, but with honesty. Because the moment you recognize that you are not trapped, you are paused, you reclaim your power. And from that place, every next move becomes possible. Chapter 2. Understanding your current position. Before you can make your next move, you have to know where you're standing. Not where you wish you were, not where you think you should be, but where you actually are mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally. Self-awareness is the foundation of every meaningful change. Without it, action becomes guesswork. With it, even small moves become powerful. Most people avoid this step because it feels uncomfortable. Looking closely at your life means confronting patterns you've normalized, habits you defend, stories you tell yourself to make things feel acceptable. But awareness isn't about self-criticism, it's about self-clarity. Your current position is the result of repeated choices, some conscious, many automatic. Take a moment to consider your patterns. How do you respond to stress? What do you default to when you're tired, overwhelmed, or unsure? Where do you consistently overcommit, underexpress, or hold back? These patterns are not accidents. They are learned behaviors reinforced over time. And the good news is this: what has been learned can be unlearned. Beliefs sit underneath every habit. If you believe rest must be earned, you'll push past your limits. If you believe conflict equals loss, you'll avoid honest conversations. If you believe you're not ready yet, you'll keep delaying your next move. So instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "What belief is running this behavior?" Curiosity creates freedom. Judgment shuts it down. To build clarity, you need simple tools, not overwhelming systems. Start with journaling, but keep it honest and brief. Ask yourself, what am I repeatedly frustrated by? Where do I feel drained instead of energized? What am I doing out of habit, not intention? Next, perform a self-audit. Look at your time, your energy, and your attention. Where are they going each day? Your life is shaped less by what you intend and more by what you consistently give energy to. Finally, check your mindset. Notice the language you use internally. I have to, I can't, that's just how I am. These phrases signal fixed thinking, and fixed thinking keeps you in fixed positions. Understanding your current position doesn't mean staying there. It means anchoring yourself in truth before you move. Clarity turns vague dissatisfaction into specific insight. And specific insight is actionable. Karma. You don't need to solve everything in this chapter. You only need to see clearly, because once you understand where you are, your next move stops feeling random and starts feeling inevitable. Chapter 3. Spotting the illusions. One of the biggest reasons people feel stuck isn't because they lack discipline or direction, it's because they're chasing ideas that were never real to begin with. Illusions shape expectations, and expectations quietly shape disappointment. If you want to grow, you have to learn how to see clearly. And clarity begins by questioning what you've been taught about enlightenment, success, and personal change. One common illusion is the belief that enlightenment is effortless. that once you wake up, life becomes calm, easy, and free of struggle. But awareness doesn't remove difficulty, it removes confusion. Growth often creates friction because it asks you to act differently in a world that rewards familiarity. Another illusion is the idea that someone else holds the answer, that a guru, mentor, book, or system will finally unlock your potential. Guidance can be powerful, but only when it points you back to your own responsibility. No one can do your inner work for you. No one can choose on your behalf. Waiting to be saved is still waiting. There's also the illusion that growth should feel good all the time. That if a path is right, it will feel natural, exciting, and affirming. In reality, the most aligned moves often feel uncomfortable at first because they disrupt old identities. Discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you're early. Consider the person who stays in an unfulfilling job because it's stable, or the relationship that no longer fits but feels safer than being alone. From the outside, it looks like patience. On the inside, it's fear dressed up as logic. Illusions thrive when they go unchallenged. Another myth is that you need to be fully healed before you move forward. But healing is not a prerequisite for action, it's often the result of it. Waiting until you feel ready can become a lifelong delay tactic. Here's the truth most people avoid. Clarity is built through engagement, not avoidance. You don't think your way into a new life. You act your way into new understanding. To spot illusions, start listening to your justifications. Now isn't the right time. I need one more sign. I'll do it when I feel more confident. Ask yourself, is this wisdom or is this fear trying to stay comfortable? When illusions fall away, responsibility appears. And responsibility can feel heavy until you realize it's also freedom. Because if the illusion isn't real, neither is the limitation. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not waiting for permission. You are standing at the edge of a clearer truth. Growth is not magical, and enlightenment is not external. It is built moment by moment, by seeing what is false and choosing to move anyway. And once you see through the illusion, you can no longer live as if it's real. Chapter 4. The Power of Choice. Every moment of your life contains a choice. Not always a dramatic one, but a meaningful one. And whether you acknowledge it or not, you are choosing all the time. Choice is the quiet engine behind every outcome you experience. Many people give their power away by believing their circumstances decide for them, that their past, their personality, or their situation leaves them with no real options. But while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control how you respond, and responses shape direction. Enlightenment begins when you stop seeing yourself as a passenger and start recognizing yourself as a participant. Most choices are made unconsciously. You wake up and reach for your phone. You avoid the conversation. You repeat the same routine because it's familiar. These are choices, but they're unexamined. And unexamined choices quietly build lives that feel misaligned. Intentional living doesn't require constant intensity. It requires awareness. When you pause long enough to notice, you create space between impulse and action. In that space, choice lives. A helpful framework is to ask 3 simple questions before acting. Is this aligned with who I am becoming? Is this a move toward growth or toward comfort? What does this choice reinforce if I repeat it? Not every decision needs to be life-altering. In fact, most transformation happens through small moves. Choosing to speak honestly instead of staying silent. Choosing rest instead of burnout. Choosing consistency instead of waiting for motivation. Small moves shape your identity. Then there are transformational moves. These are the decisions you feel in your body before you can explain them. Changing direction, setting a boundary, letting go of something that once defined you. These moves require courage not because they are reckless, but because they are irreversible in awareness. Once you make them, you can't pretend you don't know what you know. Here's the key. You don't need to make all the right choices. You need to make conscious ones. Even a wrong decision, made intentionally, teaches you more than a perfect decision made by default. Choice is not about control, it's about ownership. Karma. So today, notice where you've been saying I have no choice. Look closer. There is usually a choice underneath, one that may be uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unfamiliar. And then ask yourself, what is one small move I can make today that honors my awareness? Because the moment you choose with intention, you reclaim your power, and power, used consciously, becomes momentum. This is how change begins, not with force, but with choice. Chapter 5. Cultivating awareness in action. Awareness is not something you practice only in stillness. It is something you live while answering emails, having conversations, making decisions, and moving through ordinary days. True growth doesn't happen when life slows down. It happens when awareness shows up inside the movement. Mindfulness is often misunderstood as withdrawal from the world, but awareness in action is the opposite. It is full engagement without unconscious reaction. Most of the time, you are present physically, but absent mentally, replaying the past, rehearsing the future, or reacting out of habit. When awareness is missing, choices become automatic. When awareness is present, even routine actions become intentional. Start by noticing your internal signals. Pay attention to tension in your body, shifts in your breath, emotional spikes during conversations. These are not distractions, they are data. Your body often recognizes misalignment before your mind admits it. Awareness doesn't ask you to fix everything in the moment. It asks you to notice without immediately escaping or explaining away what you feel. A simple tool is the pause. Before responding, before committing, before reacting, pause for one breath. That single moment interrupts autopilot. In that breath, ask yourself, what's really happening right now? Awareness grows through these small interruptions. Presence also sharpens perception. When you're aware, you start seeing cause and effect more clearly. You notice how certain habits drain you, while others restore you. You recognize which environments expand you, and which quietly shrink you. From this clarity, micro-actions emerge. Micro-actions are small, intentional behaviors that align with awareness, choosing to listen fully instead of preparing your response, stepping away from what overwhelms you, speaking up sooner rather than later. These actions seem minor, but they compound. Over time, they reshape how you trust yourself. Awareness without action becomes observation. Action without awareness becomes repetition. Growth lives at the intersection of both. You don't need to monitor yourself constantly. You need to return again and again to the present moment. Each return strengthens your ability to choose consciously. This is how awareness deepens, not through perfection, but through practice. As you move through your day, ask, where am I reacting instead of responding? Where can I bring a little more presence into this moment? Because when awareness guides your actions, life stops feeling random. Your choices gain coherence, your direction gains clarity, and slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to live from intention instead of impulse. That is awareness in action, and it changes everything. Chapter 6. Breaking through resistance. Resistance is not your enemy. It is a signal. Most people interpret procrastination, fear, or self-sabotage as personal flaws, proof that something is wrong with them. But resistance doesn't appear when something doesn't matter. It shows up precisely when a move has the potential to change you. If you weren't meant to grow, there would be no internal pushback. Resistance often disguises itself as logic. I'll do it when I have more time. I need to be more prepared. Now isn't practical. But underneath those explanations is usually fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being seen, or fear of leaving the familiar behind. The ego clings to what it knows, even when what it knows is limiting. Comfort zones are not zones of comfort. They are zones of predictability. The mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar possibility. That's why you can tolerate dissatisfaction for years, while postponing a single uncomfortable decision. Resistance isn't loud, it's patient. Another source of resistance is identity. When a change threatens who you believe you are, your system pushes back. If you've always been the responsible one, resting feels wrong. If you've always avoided conflict, honesty feels dangerous. Growth asks you to loosen the grip on outdated identities, to move through resistance. You don't overpower it, you understand it. Ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I followed through? What would this change force me to admit or let go of? Who would I have to become if this worked? These questions transform resistance from an obstacle into a guide. One effective strategy is lowering the threshold of action. Resistance thrives on overwhelming goals. Instead of focusing on the entire leap, focus on the smallest possible move. Send the email, write one page. Have the first sentence of the conversation. Motion weakens resistance, stillness strengthens it. Another strategy is self-compassion. Harsh self-talk doesn't create momentum, it deepens avoidance. Speak to yourself as someone learning, not someone failing. Progress accelerates when pressure decreases. Remember this, you don't need to eliminate fear to move forward. You only need to stop letting fear make your decisions. Resistance will not disappear as you grow. It will evolve. Each new level of awareness brings new edges. And that's not a sign you're off track, it's confirmation you're expanding. When you meet resistance with curiosity instead of judgment, courage becomes accessible. And the moment you move with resistance instead of waiting for it to vanish, you break through not by force, but by choice. Chapter 7. Embodying your next move. Insight alone does not change your life. Understanding must be translated into behavior, or it fades into another good idea you once had. Embodiment is where awareness becomes real, where your next move stops being a concept and starts becoming how you live. To embody a change means you practice it before it feels natural. Most people wait for certainty before they act, but certainty is created through action. When you move first, your nervous system catches up. This is why transformation often feels awkward in the beginning. You are learning to live from a new internal posture. Start with your routines. Daily habits are not neutral, they reinforce identity. The way you begin your day, respond to challenges, and wind down at night either supports your growth or pulls you backward. You don't need perfect routines, just intentional ones. Ask yourself, what behavior would someone living my next level already practice? What is one small habit that supports that identity? Rituals are especially powerful because they signal meaning. A morning pause for reflection, a weekly review of choices and energy, a deliberate moment of gratitude before sleep. These simple acts anchor awareness in time and space. Embodiment also requires experimentation. Growth is not rigid, it's responsive. Try new ways of speaking, working, resting, or relating. Pay attention to how your body responds. Alignment often feels calmer, clearer, and more grounded, not necessarily more exciting. Bold action doesn't always mean dramatic change. Sometimes it means consistency, showing up again, repeating the choice that once felt uncomfortable until it becomes familiar. And when resistance returns, as it will, meet it with patience. Embodiment is not about perfection. It's about integration. You will forget, you will revert. That doesn't erase progress. It refines it. A powerful practice is reflection in motion. At the end of each day, ask, where did I act from awareness today? Where did I default to habit? What one adjustment can I make tomorrow? This keeps growth alive and flexible. When your actions align with your insights, trust builds. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who listens to inner clarity and responds with courage. This is how your next move becomes who you are, not something you think about, but something you embody. And once awareness lives in your behavior, change stops feeling forced. It starts feeling true. Chapter 8. Learning from setbacks. Setbacks are not signs that you're failing. They are signs that you're participating. Any path that involves growth will include missteps, wrong turns, and moments where progress feels like it's moving backward. The problem isn't falling off track, it's believing that falling means you don't belong on the path. Enlightenment is not a state of constant success. It is the ability to learn without collapsing into self-judgment. Most people treat setbacks as verdicts. One mistake becomes proof. I knew I couldn't do this. But a setback is not a conclusion, it's feedback. It's information about what didn't work, what needs adjusting, or what part of you still needs support. The difference between stagnation and growth is not the absence of failure, it's the quality of reflection afterward. When something doesn't go as planned, resist the urge to rush past it or punish yourself. Pause and ask better questions. What actually happened here? What was I feeling or avoiding at the time? What does this experience teach me about my patterns? Remove the moral weight. A missed goal is not a character flaw. A relapse is not a lack of discipline. These are moments of data, not definitions. Resilience is built when you learn how to stay present with disappointment without abandoning yourself. When you can say, "This didn't work and I'm still committed." Another important reframe: setbacks often appear right before integration. When you're learning something new, old habits resurface not to defeat you, but to be seen and released more fully. Regression is often part of rewiring. Progress is rarely linear. It spirals. You revisit lessons at deeper levels. To learn effectively from setbacks, practice intentional review. Write down what happened, what you felt, and what you would do differently next time. Then close the chapter. Don't carry the weight forward. Most importantly, return to action quickly. Momentum matters more than motivation. Even a small recommitment, a single conscious move, prevents discouragement from hardening into identity. Remember this: people who grow are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who refuse to let failure define them. Every setback you survive expands your capacity. It strengthens self-trust. It teaches adaptability, and when you stop fearing mistakes, you stop playing small. Setbacks don't disqualify you from growth. They deepen it. If you're still moving, you're still learning. Chapter 9. Creating your vision. Growth needs direction. Without a vision, awareness can turn into overthinking, and action can lose coherence. A clear vision doesn't control the future, it guides your next move. Vision is not about predicting exactly how life will unfold. It's about deciding what matters enough to orient your choices around. Many people avoid vision work because they confuse it with pressure. They think a vision locks them into expectations or sets them up for disappointment. But a true vision is flexible. It evolves as you do. Its purpose is not perfection, it's alignment. Begin by imagining your life on the other side of intentional movement. Not a fantasy version of you, but a grounded one. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel in my days? What kind of energy do I bring into my work and relationships? What values do my actions reflect consistently? Notice that these questions focus on experience, not just achievement. A powerful vision is emotional and behavioral, not just external. Visualization is a tool to rehearse alignment. Take a few quiet moments and picture yourself living from awareness, handling challenges with presence, making decisions without excessive hesitation, honoring your boundaries. Let your nervous system feel what steadiness and clarity are like. This primes your mind to recognize opportunities that match your vision. Next, translate vision into intention. Goals are useful, but only when they are connected to values. Ask, what matters most right now? Which goals support that? What can wait? Then create a next step map, not a 10-year plan, just the next few moves. Identify 1 or 2 actions that bring your vision into the real world. Make them specific, realistic, and within reach. Vision becomes real through consistency, not intensity. Revisit your vision regularly, not to judge progress, but to recalibrate. If something no longer fits, adjust without self-criticism. Growth is responsive. A clear vision acts like an internal compass. It won't remove obstacles, but it will help you navigate them without losing yourself. It reminds you why discomfort is worth it and why awareness matters. When your actions align with a vision you believe in, motivation becomes steadier. You stop relying on willpower alone. Meaning carries you forward. You don't need the full picture. You need a direction, that feels true. And from that truth, your next move becomes clearer because you know what you're moving toward. Chapter 10. Making your next enlightenment move. Everything we've explored: awareness, choice, action, reflection, resistance, and vision leads to this moment, the moment of your next move. This is where insight transforms into life. The step you take doesn't need to be monumental. It only needs to be intentional. Growth is not about waiting for perfection. It's about aligning what you know with what you do. All the clarity, all the journaling, all the reflection, it only becomes power when it meets action. Enlightenment is not a concept to admire. It is a force to embody. Ask yourself, what move have I been avoiding that, if made, would change the direction of my life? It might be a conversation, a decision, a boundary, a pursuit, or a release. The magnitude doesn't matter. What matters is the alignment. The move must come from awareness, not habit, fear, or obligation. Resistance will be present. Fear will whisper. Comfort will pull. That is normal. The measure of progress is not the absence of these forces, it is your willingness to act despite them. Momentum is built one conscious choice at a time. Start small if necessary. Send the email, make the call. Write the paragraph, take the first step. Micro-actions compound into transformation. Then notice what happens. Confidence grows, clarity expands, and the path ahead begins to reveal itself. Integration is essential. Each move should be followed by reflection. What did I learn? What energy shifted? How did this shape my awareness? This feedback loop strengthens your capacity to act with intention again and again. Finally, remember this: your next move does not complete your journey. It continues it. Every move opens new opportunities, reveals hidden patterns, and calls you to deeper action. Enlightenment is iterative. It unfolds through repeated, conscious choices. The most powerful realization is this: you already have everything you need to move. Awareness, courage, and clarity are enough. The only thing standing between you and your next stage of growth is the act of moving. So take a breath, center yourself, see clearly. And then, right now, make your next move. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect. Right now, because growth doesn't wait, and neither should you. Your life is ready. Your next move is here. Step into it. Conclusion: stepping fully into your next move. As we reach the end of this journey together, remember, the ideas you've absorbed are not the destination. They are the tools for living your destination. Self-improvement, enlightenment, growth, they are not abstract ideals. They are lived through your actions, moment by moment. You have learned that growth is not a single breakthrough, but a series of conscious moves. You've explored the importance of self-awareness, the power of choice, the necessity of confronting resistance, and the clarity that vision provides. You've seen that setbacks are lessons, that micro-actions compound into transformation, and that embodiment, living your awareness, is where real change occurs. All of this points to one central truth: your next move is always the most important. Not the one you will take in the distant future. Not the one you hope to take when conditions are perfect. The move you take now, in alignment with your values and awareness, is the move that changes everything. Transformation is not about waiting for inspiration. It's about responding to what you already know, stepping into discomfort, and committing to action. Each choice, each small step, is an investment in the life you are capable of creating. The more consistently you act with intention, the stronger your confidence, clarity, and resilience become. So carry this forward, pause, notice, choose, and act. Let awareness guide your decisions. Treat resistance as information, setbacks as feedback, and vision as your compass. And never underestimate the power of one intentional move. It may seem small, but it can ripple through your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Your journey is not a race, a checklist, or a performance. It is a living practice, and the truth is simple: you are ready for your next move. You already have everything you need. Step forward, step with courage, step with awareness. Step into your next level of growth, because the life you want is not waiting, it's unfolding in the moves you choose today.